One of the many things that comes up in lots of spiritual communities and talk and work and whatnot is the so-called twin flame journey. Now, in many cases, this can be a wonderful thing for some people. It's challenging, of course, because it's part of the package deal. It's challenging but supportive. But unfortunately, this can go awry. That seems to have been happening for a fair amount of people out there. The twin flame journey. It's like this unconscious pull between two people, and sometimes more. You know, there seems to be like backups, and then there's this whole false, the counterfeit twin thing. That's another thing. But anyway, it's a pull between two people, and in effect, they kind of become mirrors to one another. And it's something that manifests in one of the strongest ways because it's something we just can't avoid because it's so damn strong, and that is, love. And it just pulls you in. And what it's meant to do is reveal a number of things. The traumas, for one. Promote healing from them. Guidance as well. And ideally some kind of support for one another. And any number of wonderful things can come from this, but if both members are not willing to do the work, then it goes awry. And the problem is it's just too strong of a connection to try to dominate and or control. It's not what it's there for. It's not the point. And it's scary, big time. Might come out of the blue or something. Might not even been aware of it. Or maybe you had one and you're like, oh, I don't want to ever do that shit again. And it comes out of the blue, and it's like, oh, all right, maybe the other one was a fake. That was the counterfeit thing, or it becomes counterfeit. That's the other thing with the twin flame thing. It's just it's a label. It's just a concept to describe something unconventional. We're trying to understand. There's a lot of silly ideas a lot of immature ideas that can come with it. Oh, well, it's my twin flame. That's unconditional love, no matter what. That doesn't mean unconditional tolerance. If they're not doing their part, if they're not doing the work, then it's like they kind of eventually get demoted. In some circles, they would call that being demoted to a karmic. That ain't what anybody wants to be. Karmic is somebody who is very narcissistic, for example, very toxic. May not seem like that on the surface level, but deep down, well, it's messy, big time. But even if one finds himself being the only willing participant in this endeavor, that's all right. You can still get whatever you need out of it. It's not going to be fun, but and if that person doesn't tune in or do their own shadow work and everything else like that to de-scramble themselves or stop dissociating or whatever the case may be. Tune in instead of tuning out. well, then, you'll move on if you're doing your part. That doesn't mean it's not painful, but, And then, sooner or later, whenever it's time, and if need be, another will. There is always another Skywalker. It's not just one more. It's not just two more. There's always more. Because the twin flame thing, in my experience, is more like a frequency than anything else. Ideally, it could be maybe meant to be for one or two people or so to embody these kinds of activating characteristics within one another. But if it's not working, if it's not coming to fruition, and if one person's doing their thing and the other isn't up to the task, then, there's no hanging on. Because it's more like a frequency than anything else. So even if the twin flame journey goes awry, hey, what a nightmare. Especially if you end up with a counterfeit one. That's really something. Or one that might have been real, but because of their actions, it became counterfeit. Man, is that brutal. Big time. And for anyone who's really going through it, I get it. Been there. And, the twin flame thing is it's interesting. It's more, it's just as much about independence as well as healthy independence, because it's more about interdependence. In order to have interdependence, there has to be independence and cohesion between oneself and another. I've never understood why they'd want to choose the fabrication as opposed to something so much more profound. But, you can't make anybody move who's dead set on sitting still. It's frozen in fear and will not examine why. So they're not going to do that. They can't melt the permafrost, basically. So, hey, anyway, I think that's about it for this one. Thanks for tuning in.